Okay, hi Eddie, welcome back. So this is your second time with A1 Combat. You've secured yourself a co-main event slot. You had a very exciting back and forth battle in your debut back in March. First and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about your last fight. That was less than a month ago, and I thought it was interesting that it was in a boxing ring. Can you tell me a little bit about that unique experiences, the challenge it posed for you, and are you excited to be back in the A1 Combat cage?
I mean, yeah, like it being in a ring definitely threw me for like a curve. I wasn't expect I they told me ahead of time, so it was hard to train around it, and so grappling was different, and just taking shots on the cage is different. So it was a whole different experience. You could see the crowd better, so being able to communicate with the crowd was a big thing. It was super fun. Um, it did mess me up a little because the ropes obviously I wasn't able to perform as well, and he's used to the ropes, so it kind of just it was odd. It was an odd experience, but as a fighter, you got to go through some of that stuff.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a very quick turnaround for you. Is activity something that you're striving for in your career? And do you think that that's going to actually be an advantage for you coming out here?
Honestly, it's being active is like what my mindset when I'm training is if I'm not gonna fight, then what's the point in training, So every time I train, it's always looking because I'm gonna fight soon. So I'm always active. Like even if I don't have a fight for the next couple years or months, I'm still gonna be training, no days off. And because it's easier on the weight cut too. So being active definitely helps, and I think it gives me the advantage of just staying active. Just being able to perform my best at every single event.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to build off of that, with such a short turnaround, am I right to assume you came out of that last fight uninjured? And if so, how fast were you able to get back into the gym after that last one? And were there any changes made to the camp to account for recovery and shorter preparation period?
Yeah, any fight you come out of, you're gonna be injured, even if it's a 5 second fight. You're gonna have these little injuries from the adrenaline wearing off from all the practices and even just being in the fight, walking towards the cage. I definitely did have some small little, injuries, but I still showed up to practice next day and got to work. It wasn't really an issue for me. I'll train through injuries and then recover them as much as possible, and so that's just kind of my routine that I've built for myself.
Awesome. So, you're very early on in your career, but you've fought some very gifted athletes already. Both of your previous opponents were collegiate footballers. Now you're facing Nick Stemmet, who's a D1 wrestler. We always talk about getting as much experience as possible in the amateurs to prepare yourself for the pros. Is that something you're actively looking to do to challenge yourself, or are you just taking whatever comes your way?
Yeah, I've been fighting the best of the best. These guys, they're probably the best at light heavyweight. So being able to fight them and show that I could beat them, easily beat them. It just shows me how much success I'm gonna have in the pros. I come from a small gym, so I'm only gonna be fighting the best. There's no excuses from where I come from, and I feel like that just carries me throughout my career.
Have you taken the time to watch your opponent, or is your focus primarily on yourself when approaching a fight?
My coach, he's really good about not letting me, kind of see my opponent. He's obviously I know he's like they're Division 1 athletes, and just not being able to just watch them, it kind of still keeps the confidence. It's it's good on my coach's part because he trains or he asks like guys in my gym to kind of mimic his style without me actually having to watch. Like the last couple fights, they've all had knockouts in the first rounds, and so me knowing that, it didn't scare me at all because I know I'm not going down. But I know if I watch the videos, it sparks some interest in my mind.
That makes sense. So yeah, so building off you mentioned your coaching a little bit. So you train over at Rice Bros Jiu-Jitsu. I know that you kind of threw down a little bit in your last fight with A1, but has Jiu-Jitsu been a focus of yours? And are you going to be comfortable to engage in the grappling with Stemmet? Or do you think you're going to be looking to avoid and mitigate those takedowns and keep it on the feet?
So yeah, I've come from the best gym in the NorCal. Best jiu-jitsu gym, best MMA gym. So I know I have those parts of my game, and striking is kind of what's entertaining right now. No one wants to see people hugging for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. They want to see some action. If it goes to the ground, I'm going to get back up and keep fighting. I know I could go on the ground. I know I could stand up. I'm good on all parts of the game, so it doesn't really worry me what he wants to do. I'll keep him on the feet if I have to.
So you're the featured bout, the co-main event. Walk me through your ideal fight to show the crowd and A1 matchmakers that you belong at the top of these cards.
I mean, just being able to go out there and fight all 3 rounds standing up and just keep throwing. The fans can speak for it too. They love watching me fight. Every time I get out and fight, they're like always coming up to me, asking me what a great fight it was, and I love seeing that. When people come up to me, telling me how good of a job I did, even if I don't come out winning. I'm going out there putting my all into it, and so it brings more confidence to me, and I plan on making this fight another 3 rounds, another stand-up fight, because that's what they want to see. They want to buy their tickets and get the most out of it. You don't want to go see a movie and it being 30 seconds long. You know.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to see what you're going to bring to the cage on Friday night. I'll let you go. I know you're a little preoccupied right now getting cleaned up, ready for the big event. But could you just do us a favor and give us a direct sentence with a message to anyone tuning in on YouTube?
Yeah, if you're looking for an entertaining fight, better than the UFC fights right now, come tune into A1 Combat. It should be the biggest promotion for amateurs, and it should be for pros too. They bring nothing but banger fights. They make banger fights. If you want to watch a 15-second knockout, you're gonna get that in one of those matches. If you want to watch a five round fight, 3 round fight of just standing up, you're gonna get that too. You get everything with A1 Combat. So I recommend you should stay in and watch, even if it's amateurs. Those are some of the best fights.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Eddie, and best of luck on Friday.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, hello. We're joined with the ever exciting Nick Stemmett. So thank you for joining us. Nick, we'll go straight into it. You're a D1 All-American, IBJJF Nogi World Champion at Blue Belt, and you've proven yourself to have devastating power with your 2 TKO finishes. Tell us a little bit more about what sparked your transitioning from wrestling into MMA and what you've been doing to develop such a well-rounded, game within your mixed martial arts.
So wrestling obviously helped me a lot. I think everyone knows wrestling is the best base for MMA. And I spent so many years in a gym training my butt off and just love the sport. Like, I think that's my biggest advantage over a lot of guys. I really just am super passionate about training and improving and getting better and making myself a better athlete in general. And so when my wrestling career was over, I didn't really want to hang it up quite yet. And so bringing myself all the way back down the mountain to start something new in MMA has been super, super fun and challenging and exciting for me so far. So, yeah, I think just every single day approaching the sport with a positive attitude, knowing that there's something to learn every day. It's like a kid on Christmas morning for me. Every single day I have something to learn. And so that's been really fun for me. But obviously, my wrestling background has helped me tremendously.
Cool. Yeah, you train at a really well-renowned gym, aka San Jose. How long have you been training over there, and who would you say has been most influential in your martial arts journey so far?
So I started training at AKA like periodically throughout college. It was funny. I would go like once or twice a year, every year for like the past 5 years. Just honestly, whenever I saw that like the Russians were in town and Khabib was there, I was like, oh, I gotta go in there and see if I can train with those guys. So I've been around the gym for a while, and I know I've known that's somewhere I wanted to train right after college. And yeah, I think everything that I had expected about the gym came true. The coaches are amazing, the partners are amazing, and it really feels like a very tight family, which is like something that really, really matters, especially coming from the team aspect of wrestling. Like, you grow with those people so close. It's like a brotherhood, and that's kind of a great way to grow and learn. And I've definitely experienced that so far at AKA. But the biggest thing I think is just every day when we're training, we have all of our previous champions up on the wall. And I think that's a huge, huge confidence boost for me, because I know that I'm in a place that has everything for me and for what it takes for me to get to where I know I can be. So I think so far at AKA, I have quite a few awesome partners and coaches. specifically Ron Kessler, Ando, Jeremy Mendez. And then as far as partners, there's such a long list, but Theo Haig has been a huge help for me. Grady Cloyd, who's also fighting on the card, him and I are boys. Ian Marshall, and then Kyle Kenfack. I mean, there's so many. So yeah, I just have no shortage of partners over there. It's been amazing.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned that your wrestling career is over. I know there's a lot of opportunities kind of developing wrestling with like RAF and promotions as such. Have you fully closed the door on your wrestling career? You all in on MMA now? Is that your sole focus? Like, tell me a bit more about your goals within the sport.
Yeah, so I'm one of those people that just loves to compete. Like over my career at Stanford, I competed more than almost anyone. Like I was one of the only starters that would go to all the local open tournaments just because I love to get in there. So I think, no, I mean, I wrestled at the US Open this year just for fun. Like I hadn't even trained really. I had a fight that fell through, and then my dad and I just decided to drive from we were in Yosemite. We drove all the way to Vegas just so I could scrap. I did pretty good. And so yeah, no, I'm always down to keep wrestling or do whatever. If Raf called me, I would 100% do it. I love competing. I think that's the biggest thing is like anytime somebody knocks on the door and says, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'm one of those people that says yes a lot more than no. So yeah, I my goals with MMA are, um, I know how high my ceiling can be in this sport. I think my ceiling in MMA is even higher than it was in wrestling. I had success in wrestling, but I wasn't even fully committed to wrestling until like my senior year of high school. And I've done a lot of other sports growing up. And so I think that's given me a pretty strong athletic base, which has helped me apply my skills from wrestling to MMA much better, if that makes sense, because I think I have the innate athleticism that allows me to kind of have an X factor over a lot of other traditional wrestlers.
Well, talking about your athleticism and your innate ability to transfer your wrestling skills over, I did notice that when you won the IBJF World Championship, sorry, you spoke on your Instagram about how you had no clue what you were doing. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and how you went from, being a wrestler to being a world champion in jiu-jitsu and, now you're undefeated in MMA? Like, how does that feel for you to be transferring those skills? And do you think it's quite a seamless transition throughout the sport?
I think the biggest thing that translates is just the mentality, like that fight attitude. I definitely developed that throughout wrestling. Wrestling is not easy. It's sometimes it's even harder to train for wrestling than it is for MMA. And so that's something that's carried through no matter what it is, if it's jujitsu or a fight or anything. That has helped me grow leaps and bounds in any sport that I'm doing right now in terms of MMA. I wouldn't say it's entirely true that I didn't know what I was doing. Like I still was training a little bit, but really I just use my wrestling and my attitude and my mentality to kind of go out there and be like, yeah, I'm not losing to these guys. Like they may know more than me about jujitsu, but like they got muffin tops, like they're not gonna choke me out, these random dudes. So yeah, I think my attitude, the expectations that I have for myself, whether it's jujitsu or in MMA, it's like, no, I'm not gonna allow these guys to beat me because I've sacrificed a lot more than they have.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about your mentality, but you've touched on that a lot. As you can tell, I've took a quick look at your social media. You've developed quite the personality there. I did see in your promo video that you mentioned you'll be bringing the White Boy Rage on Friday night. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that entails and what the fans should expect to
What
see from you come fight
what
night?
does what does white boy rage look like? I don't know if that's the best way to describe my mentality. I actually think I'm a pretty cerebral fighter in there. I was having a little bit of fun with it, but no, I definitely can tap into a little rage if I have to. And I know that this fight could get dirty. This opponent is he's game. He's not afraid of a fight. He accepted to fight me, and I know he's gonna give it his all. And so I can't just be the guy who's just trying to be too technical. Like if I do have to dig deep later in the third round and just kind of let my emotions take over, I'm willing to do that. Um, but yeah, no, I would say my my approach to fighting is pretty yeah, cerebral, and I try to be as intelligent as I can. But you have to have both sides of the coin. You can't be the guy who's too calm because then that person can capitalize off of that. So yeah, no, I'm always game for a scrap, but I also like to try to be as intelligent as I can engage.
Great. Yeah, you touched on this already. Obviously, 2-0, undefeated. You've yet to see a second round. So obviously prepared to go into deep waters, to go into those later rounds. But if you could walk us through your ideal fight from start to finish, how do you see things going on Friday night?
Being an amateur, I realize that I'm still very early on in my career. And like I said, I have an idea of where my ceiling could be in this sport. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get there. I'm willing to basically sacrifice everything. So, I want to keep getting better with these fights. I don't want to just take these fights and dominate these guys right away and then jump into the pros and not really have an idea of what it feels like to be in a dogfight. So I'm prepared for that. If I happen to get to finish earlier on, that's great. Obviously, that's an easier day for me, but mentally, I'm preparing myself to have a very, very tough fight here, and I kind of hope that I do. But if I were to predict how it will go, I think it's going to be utter domination from the very first bell. I think I'm going to overwhelm him with not only my athleticism, but my decision making, my skills, my fight IQ, and just really everything that I have on the table. I think in my previous fights, I've been a little bit underwhelmed. My first fight, I did actually go all 3 rounds, but I kind of just really leaned into my wrestling and I felt like I had more to give. I did get the finish eventually, but I think in this fight, I want to show everything that I've been working on. I want to be able to put on some of my striking on display and then also just kind of continually breaking them down until I eventually get a finish later on in the fight. But yeah, I think now in my career, I want to get fight time. I want to get in there and experience it fully and just feel what it's like to go through all of the ups and downs of a war. So that's what I'm expecting.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. And I'm really excited to see, what you bring to the table in your co-main event on Friday night.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
On Friday night, the fans can expect to see an absolute masterclass from start to finish. I know deep in my heart that I'm going to absolutely dominate this guy and put on all the skills that I've been working on display for you guys. And I can't wait to do it. See you on Friday.